Are you there?
Yes, teacher.
Okay. So I have no, the total number of our students is 32, is it? The total number is 32. And I'm waiting until now. There is only 25 students get in. Again, participation marking is depending on your attendance at the lecture time. And most of the questions falls within the discussion questions in class. So now we turn out, previously we have stopped at purposes of legal reasoning study. Today we will focus on skills needed for legal reasoning study. But first of all, I would like you to distinguish between skills and knowledge. Can someone distinguish differences between skills and knowledge, and also provide me how these things related to each other? If you have some ideas, raise your hand, please. What thì
Yes.
What do you think about skills and knowledge? What is skill? What is different?
In my opinion, skill means that you are able to do something.
Yep, the capacity.
Yes.
To do something. Okay, can you give me an example?
For example, communication skill, time management skill.
Okay. Well, I suppose that someone added some ideas about differences between skill and knowledge. Skill is a capacity or an ability to do an activity or something well. And in order to have skill, you need to practice, right? I will give you an example. You are learning to study how to swim, especially we focus on frog swim, because there are different types of swim. And I will ask you to come into the classroom. I present to you the video clips of how the frog swims. So for you to understand that we imitate the behavior, the conducts, the activities of a frog in our swimming, human beings swimming. And I show you a video clips of Anh, that one of the swimmer, our champion. Yeah, I'm not really okay, but still all right. Because yesterday I have to attend the master councils for 8 hours. And then I have to deliver a lecture for 2 hours more. So yesterday was overwork. It a bit in the morning, and then it will be okay. Then in that classroom, I will teach you the knowledge of how we conduct activity, how the hands will move and how the legs move, how should you control your breath, etc. And after 2 hours of theory and also of watching video clips, question and answers, you are very sure that you can swim because you have a lot of knowledge and you have a lot of knowing how to do it, okay? And then I closed the door of classroom after I asked you to get out. I closed the door of the classroom, make sure that you have a lot of knowledge about how human beings can do frog swimming. And then you come to the swimming pool. I pushed you down to the swimming pool. Can you swim? Can you? If previously you didn't do any swimming, can you swim? No. I suppose that you will sink out in the water because you didn't practice before. You have a lot of knowledge of how the frog swim, but you cannot do the same as the others in swimming. So you see, skills is different from knowledge. You have a lot of knowledge, but you cannot do it. Another example, oral arguments. We discussed within the classroom what are differences between written and oral arguments. We asked you to prepare for a presentation to defend your clients. You prepare everything. You have to take notes, etc. But then I asked you to stand up and present your clients in a moot court. But I believe that some of you, for the first time, if you stand up and present, even you learn by heart of what you have to say, you still feel very nervous, very unconfident and uncomfortable in giving the public speech. You see some even our law students who are very excellent, but in lack of practice, when they become lawyers and they come to the real courtroom and the real hearing, when the judge called their name to stand up to defend their clients, they feel so uncomfortable that they couldn't even stand up. Their body is shaking, ashamed and kind of feelings. Therefore, even public speech and also kind of presentation skills need to be practiced. Skills is established via practice. Practice, practice, and practice. If you have good knowledge, but you do not practice, you never have the skill. So now I would like you to compare the relationship between skill and knowledge. I hope that you understand what skill means and you apply the knowledge within this subject into your life, okay, real life, because this subject will provide you a lot of knowledge and some of the practice. However, you have to apply this knowledge into practicing. If not, you get nothing. So now comparing skills and knowledge, someone have some ideas? Ngọc Mai.
Yeah, I think these two elements support each other. Like if you want to do something well, you must have the idea about it. In this case, you must have the, the knowledge, and then you can practice a lot, like you said, to have the professional skill. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. There are some skills that are naturally equipped in our genes, I suppose, in our body, like drinking, eating. At the first time, the baby was born and they can have milk, right? There are some basic skills which is very naturally developed without knowledge. But most of professional skills, like oral arguments, written arguments, and even critical thinking, are developed intentionally. Okay? Professional skills in one's career, most of them have to be developed intentionally rather than naturally. That is the first point. The second point is that knowledge is closely related with skill. In order to develop professional skills, you need knowledge first, embed, and then apply that knowledge into practice. It will be skill. Therefore, skill and knowledge closely related. Okay, that is why we have these kind of lectures, so that you learn knowledge first. So now brainstorming. What are skills needed for legal reasoning study? This is a brainstorm stage. Therefore, you throw every ideas on the table and then we reorganize them again. So what skills? Give me an oral answers as well as the written one in the chat. What skills are needed for legal reasoning study as you think? Howling, what do you think?
Yes, I think the skill required for legal reasoning is critical thinking.
Why?
Because there are so many opinions in the court and from the defense party. So we need to have the critical thinking to think it more clearly, and yeah, you can understand what others parties say to defend them and give our opinion.
Okay, great. That is very important in our career, in our profession, critical thinking. Because rules finally just define rights and obligations of parties involved. And if there are disputes between two parties, that is the questions of defining obligations and rights. If you stand for one side, you will require your rights and try to limit your obligations. Okay? If you stand on your client's side, one side. But opposingly, the other side also people require to have more rights and less obligations. And if you are not prepared to view the issues from the other side, you are attacked at your argument. You give your argument, you say, I suppose that, I believe that, I persuade that, these are my client's rights and obligations. The other phones So they have to limit their rights and increase their obligations. But suddenly, the opposing lawyers raised the questions regarding your rights and obligations, why you did it. They view from the other side, you see? And therefore, if you are not prepared to view the issues from the other side, you cannot efficiently respond to their arguments, respond to their questions. You cannot rebut their views. And if you cannot rebut their views, it means that you are loose. Why? Because there are two arguments exist. It is available place for the court to decide up to him. But if you rebut the other arguments and make them broken out, there is only your arguments then there is correct. So this is why should the court decide in favor for your case. Therefore, critical thinking helps you to view the issues from the other side, not only from your side. But not only that, there may be another side, maybe another view too. The two parties didn't see another point. The judge may raise the questions to you and the opposing lawyers as well. So if you didn't view from that point, that angles, that approach, you cannot address the judge's questions. And if you fail in persuading him, you may lose the case, right? And therefore, critical thinking provides you the capacity to view the issues from different angles, from different approaches, and in depth. So therefore, I completely agree with Lin for her idea that critical thinking skills is very special to lawyers. Very, very famous for lawyers, okay? Lawyers are supposed to have a very good critical skill, critical thinking skill. What else? Okay, first of all, critical thinking. What else? Mai Huỳnh Nga, how can I call you Mai? Mai Nga.
My name is Huỳnh Nga.
Huỳnh Nga. Okay.
Yes.
Huỳnh Nga.
So I'm thinking of language skill because when it comes to critical thinking, we have the ability to look at the subject at different aspects. But it's a good idea to actually present it in front of the audience with good language skills to deliver your argument in a persuasive way. So I think language skill is also a very important one to mention.
Yes, language skill especially also extremely important, essential to our legal profession. Essential. Why? Not only because of presentation skills. You see that for doctors, when they want to help their patients, they need medicine tablets in order to help them, right? Engineer, if they want to make an airplane or a motorbike, they need the machine and they need the materials to make it. Their profession. The painter, if they want to make a painting, they need color, they need brushes, they need images. For us, when we want to help our clients, when we want to work, what do we need? The language. You see, we don't need any medical tablets to help our clients. That is the doctor's work. You don't need any material or machines to work. That is the engineer work. We don't need colors and brushes. That is the painters. For the singers, even they need some musician instruments to help them with the voice. And they need some behaviors like movement for dances. But for us, we don't need any like laboratories at school, you see, only classroom. We use only language to help our clients. Language and the knowledge in our mind presented through to our clients. And at the hearing of the court is using in the tools of language. Laws, how can you understand the rules? Because it is conveyed to us in the form of language, right? We do our work in the form of language. The court make a decision in the form of language. How can we know their decisions? Because their decisions is conveyed to us via language. So therefore, language skills is essential to lawyers, to legal profession. And therefore you have to improve to practice your skill. Okay, later on, we will discuss more in details. But now we have two groups of skills, critical thinking and language skills. What else? What else is needed for lawyers? Ngọc Yến, please.
Yes, teachers, I think one more skill that is necessary for the lawyers is the analytical skill.
Mm-hmm.
So because I think that's when you are a lawyer, you need to like accept a large volumes of complex information. So the analytical skills will help you to review the complex written documents, so you can making the connection between the legal authorities, claims, and the counter attorneys or lawyers of the opponent, and then you can develop the counter claims, and answers will help you to enhance the problem solving skills. So I think that analytical skills is a requirement for a lawyer.
Right, good idea. Analytical skills. Okay, I agree completely with Ngọc Yến. But you know that in order to have critical thinking skills, analytical is one of the subcategory of critical thinking skill. Critical thinking skill is broader than analytical skills. It means that critical thinking skill includes analytical, right? Analytical skills, analysis capacity, okay? Analyzing capacity. So what else? What else? What about arguments skills? Is it important? Yeah, go ahead.
I think some special skill like legal writing skill or legal speaking skill and legal reading skill too.
That is language skill, Darling. Language skills including the listening capacity, reading capacity, writing capacity and speaking capacity as well. When we talk about language skills, it's including 4 subcategories. And reading and writing are extremely important for lawyers. Later on, we will discuss about it.
Okay, thank you, teacher.
Okay. What about other skills? There are a lot of skills that we need, but how do you distinguish special skills needed for lawyers? Quang Minh?
Yes, I think the research skill, like you search for some documents or textbook for your preparation to for a case or
Right. Yep, I understand your point. I catch it. Technical skills. Of course, we need to know how to search materials, especially cases for supporting our arguments, right? We need also distinguish between original documents and copies. So the values of the copies is less than our original one, and the lawyers should notice the differences between them. And also we have primary source of material and secondary source of material. You have to distinguish the values between these 2 types of source of information. Because when you work with legal cases, 2 important things that you discuss on is only facts and rules. Facts and rules are 2 things within legal cases. Nothing more, just facts and rules. And therefore, in order to distinguish the truth, the values of these facts, you have to support your arguments with primary source of materials. How do you know these facts are true? Whether there are some amendments or some points of views added, but not the true facts. So a lot of things need technical skills. I will discuss this further, but first of all, I would like to agree with Quang Minh about this point. What else? What about thầy cãi? Luật sư means thầy cãi in the Vietnamese language, right? They didn't call previously luật sư, but they call thầy cãi. That is, lawyers are professors of arguments. The same ideas, the same points, but how to construct your arguments persuasively, beautifully, right? Causing attractions, persuasive. It depends on how you structure, how do you construct your arguments. And therefore, argument skills are essential to lawyers. Do you agree with me?
Yes, we agree with you.
Yep. There are some people like fish sellers in the markets. They argue very violently, very strongly, even they jump into biting each other. But that is not the way the professors do, the lawyers do. The lawyers just use their mouth, use their structure to persuade them, to define their obligations and rights, who are correct and who are wrong, just using the arguments. well structured, well organized in order to persuade them. So the way the lawyers do, different from ordinary people do. So that is all of 4 groups of skills which are very, very essential to lawyers for legal reasoning study, because we do study legal reasoning because we want to imitate the knowledge of judge reasoning into our own. Therefore, we need these kind of skills. First of all, critical thinking. Thinking, what is it? This is a kind of essential skills for lawyers. All of these 4 groups of skills are very essential to lawyers, and therefore I ask you to practice these skills in order to form a professional capacity in yourself. Practice, practice, and practice, okay? Don't study here with me, and then after the lecture, you become a very ordinary people. I don't like you to be that. I want you to be more professional in everything around you. Even in a daily conversation, try to construct your argument carefully. Try to view the issues from different angles. Try to use persuasive language and try to provide a very primary evidence so that you persuade the others, even your friends. In daily conversations, your parents, your sister and brothers, etc. So now, because these skills are very essential to lawyers, I could like to ask you, what does it mean by thinking? What is thinking? You think a lot, but try to tell me what is thinking. Have any ideas? What do you do when you think? Where am I?
In my opinion, thinking is the act using your brain to consider something.
Yep, that is the mental process happening in our mind, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that is a kind of psychological activity, mental activities that helps us to reflect the world, to reflect the environment around us, help us to formulate the knowledge to solve a problem, to make decision, and even thinking fulfills a desire to understand something for our interest. So critical thinking is a hybrid activity of thinking. Critical thinking is not a natural ways of think, right? It needs the practice to have it. So this is a high developed level of thinking. This is a set of skills and sometimes also attitudes that deploy the logically and selectively evaluate arguments. So that is why critical thinking help us to view the issues from different angles. Okay, logically and selectively evaluate arguments from different sides. So now I wonder what benefits of critical thinking are there? What benefits that critical thinking can bring to us? Can you tell me? I'm waiting for your thinking. especially critical thinking? Give me an idea. Just throw everything on the table and we discuss.
For me, critical thinking is the best ability to practice your brain. Your brain should be always think about something is true or false, and that help us to have interest for learning something new, and help us to have a curious about finding something for ourselves and have a knowledge to for our career.
Yeah, because critical thinking asks us to view the issues not only from one side. For example, you stand on this side, but you're still curious about what about the other side? Is it the same? So you turn it out, right? You find out more about the issues. You are not stop there and satisfied with your limited knowledge. You're curious, you put yourself in knowing more about all the issues, all the views, and therefore it helps you to learn, it helps you to be curious more. Thank you. What else? Yep, that is a kind of argument construction too, right? So how to structure your speech, your presentations into 3 parts. And then from that main parts, you develop main ideas, subcategories such as. Good. What else? What are benefits of critical thinking? To be curious in knowing more, and then therefore you have more knowledge. And you have a capacity of structuring your ideas logically. What else? My
name is Ngày. Yes. I think that critical thinking, in fact, is quite dangerous, because when it comes to putting yourself in other people's shoes, you kind of have the empathy. You understand the motive, as well as understand why they act in such a way. But from your perspective, like people who's watching what's going on, you can also analyze what's wrong to their action. So you understand what is going on. You truly understand the chain of event, and you can also analyze the black hole of the event, the wrong that you can build for your argument to break the opposing argument. So I think,
why is it dangerous? Is it very helpful? Is it?
Like from other perspective, like especially from the opposing party. Like imagine that you have someone standing in front of you that generally know everything that you're going to say, know every of your argument, and I think
you feel lost of confidence, right?
In such a way, it's quite dangerous, and yes, lost confidence.
Yeah, that's right. Good. What else? So be a critical person is quite dangerous to the others. That doesn't mean that you are kind of pessimistic person. Pessimistic person is a person who didn't believe in anything. Critical thinking have something they believe in after discovering the truth, after discovering many angles of other views, and they just decide that something is right and they believe in that decision or points. So therefore, critical thinking person doesn't mean the kind of pessimistic person. Critical thinking persons are also very optimistic. What else?
As Helen said before, critical thinking have us to see anything in different views. So I believe that it will also enhance our problems solving skills and help us to make decisions in better way.
Right. Yep, that is the point too. That's it. All of benefits that critical thinking can bring. Something else? Helen, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just have a query about if we have so many opinions and we stand on both sides, so we maybe have the double. We maybe have ba phải, I don't know this.
Double standard.
Double standard. So how can we defend our opinion? Because we believe the two sides are correct, are true. So how can we protect our opinion from other sides?
The first point I would like to criticize your views is that, is there any case that the 2 points of views are both correct completely? Both are equally correct? Is there that case? Can you show me an example? Especially under the rules, there is not such a way that the two parties are both correct. No, equally correct. I mean, so that you know that two views are equally the same. No, that is the first point you raise, Arlene. There must be one side is more correct than the other side. Even there are just 1 point or 2 points a little more correct, but that is more correct, not equally correct. Especially the rules when they distinguish obligation and rights. There is clear, quite clear, what are rights and obligations of each party depending on the elements of the rules. They have the elements, the circumstances, okay, of the rules to be applicable. And therefore, yeah, you see some good points from the other side. You see some good points from your side. But later on, you will see which side is more proper than the others, especially under the rules. So therefore, it's very hard to find out the case that two parties are equally, exactly right, the same way from each side. Do you get my point, Ling?
Yes, I understand. Thank you, teacher.
Yeah.
Well, I think that when it comes to understanding the opposing motive or why they do such thing, we should also be ruthless.
Yeah.
Like we should, well, I understand why you do that, but my is complying with the law. So just even though we understand and we show like empathy and sympathy, but it doesn't matter when it comes to law.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly right. So I think that a lot of benefits. Yep. Well, you already mentioned about curious, being interested in learning more and more, knowing the other voice points of view, knowing more about others' arguments, and it's critical thinking is providing you the flexibility. What do I mean by flexible here? That because you are able to adapt to different points of view, you know by yourself that every issues can be viewed from different angles, and therefore you will not be conservative. You persuade yourself, you know by yourself that your point of view is just from one side, or maybe you develop your comprehensive view, but there is also other thinkings, other maybe context and circumstances that you might be falling in. And therefore, having critical thinkings will help you to be flexible, right? To be able to adapt to different situations because you expect that in advance. And in order to become critical thinking, you have to got the skeptical capacity. That means that you question why these things is true and why it is useful. Is it the truth? Is it correct? Okay, right. So therefore, this kind of some of the summary of benefits critical thinking can bring to us. Of course, there are different views as well, at different presentations of these benefits, but this is some of the summary. Yep, just some points for you. Now, how can we develop our critical thinking? That is a question. But before coming to that, I would like you to understand how can we develop critical thinking skills or exercising the judgments, critical judgments. How can we develop this capacity? By giving a very careful observation. First, you have to observe things, and then you have to investigate whether these facts, where these rules have just such a limitation, interpretation or meanings, whether these facts are true. You have to investigate, observe, investigate, and consider, thinking the connections, the relationships between facts and rules, and the relationships between the facts as well. So you have to think, right? You have to consider. So exercising judgments with critical thinking requires a very careful observation, a very careful investigation, and very careful considerations. Practicing these will help you to relate the issues, the matter of the issues with the rules, and to give a judgment. During critical thinking practicing, you did some judgments, right? So now I give you an example of how critical persons work. You know that Sherlock Holmes, one of a very famous story. Thám tử tư là gì các em? In English, Sherlock Holmes is a private investigator, right? Not a public one. because public investigator working for the police or prosecution office, but Sherlock Holmes is a kind of private one. He handled himself office, right? And there is a case that in a France situations, right? It happens in France, in a village where there is very little people living. On the one side, there is the mountain and a road. On the other side is the valleys. And early mornings, the two people running for exercise, jogging exercise, and they saw one of the hands that cut sharply here, very sharp, you know, and that hands on the road, nobody else. And they just reported to the police. They came to the crime scene, but they didn't know where to start because there is no dead body around. There's nothing else except a sharp hand was cut off and put it on the road. So they have to call Sherlock Holmes to come. And when he saw that hands on the road, he just put himself down and closely breathed, using his nose to sense the hands. People were so shocked. He observed the hand carefully. And after half an hour of careful observation, careful investigation, careful consideration, he gave some conclusion. He said that according to the color of the hands, this part of the human being body was cut off from their main bodies for only around up to 2 days, around 24 hours to 28 hours only. And by observing carefully, you see that this is the ring. And well, he saw the line here. That means this person have been married because there's a line here and they notice that this hand must wear a ring before. And the ring was taken out, not for a very long time because there's still the line there. What else? This is a hand of a man rather than a woman, a man. Why is it a man? Because the hand seems to be bigger in terms of the bone structure. Yeah, the size of the hand. So this must be a man's hand. What else? According to the skin, the color of skin and the structure of the skin, this is a quite man. The man is around 30 up to 40, the middle age. What else? So he observed the fingers. All of the fingers was clean and then very carefully taken care. It means that you look at the fingers and the hands, you know that this man is not the farmers, not the people working around the village. Because around the village, there are only farmers working very hard, so their hands are not beautiful, not skin cared like this hand. So you see, after a very careful observation, investigation, and consideration, we have more information about the victim. That is a man, middle age, married, right? Furthermore, The hands were cut sharply. It means that the criminal didn't use the knife. They have to use cái cưa. What is it in English? I don't know. And that is cut off the hand of that man. So you have to focus on the way they did the criminal conduct, so that you search around the village. What houses have a cưa? Okay, I don't know how to call it in English. And then from that clue, they found the criminal. Okay, so you see, with our careful observation, Sherlock Holmes cannot come to such the findings, but not only observe, you have knowledge in order to consider the links between the facts and to set up the picture of the truth. Can you see the points here? You understand the story and see the points, don't you?
Yes, we understand now.
Okay. So that is how critical thinking works, okay? As some of you mentioned before, critical thinking, including logical thinking. Actually, critical thinking, a very high grade of thinking, therefore it includes some of reasoning logically. In addition, critical thinking requires the capacity to locate underlying assumptions. For example, Thảo Linh gave me the arguments that there is a case that two sides are both correct, and therefore you don't know which one is winner and which one is loser. That's Thảo Linh argument. So bà phải double standard. But you see that I find down the locate underlying assumption of Thảo Linh, that she assumed two sides are equally correct. Then by finding out that first point, I break down her arguments. So therefore, critical thinking requires you to have capacity to locate the underlying assumptions. What the hidden assumptions are there? And then you have to develop your own assumption as well, your own views. And you have to evaluate your views as well, whether you are right, whether you have a very comprehensive views already. So justifying your own assumptions. And also you have to judge the rationality of different assumptions and their relationship, and test the accuracy of these assumptions. So you see, having critical thinking is not easy. You have to develop a lot of capacities inside yourself. Yeah. And previously, I remember someone of you already mentioned about analytic skills. And I already emphasized again, critical thinking includes analytic skills and argument skills. Because you think critically and then you have to present to us, what is your thought? If you don't have argument skills, how can you present your thought precisely, efficiently, right? So in order to have efficient presentations, you need arguments. So these are something that I would like to share with you about critical thinking skill. Now, I wonder, how can you develop your critical thinking skills? How can what help us to develop critical thinking skills? Do you have any ideas? Share with us. Cái cưa sò. Okay, thank you. How should you develop your critical thinking skill? What should you do to develop your critical thinking skills? Give me some tips. Châu Long.
Well, in my opinion, in order to develop my critical thinking skills, first of all, I have to be curious about something first, because I think that if I'm not interested in something, I will not think about it. So therefore, I will not have that critical thinking skill.
I agree. Raising more questions, okay, in order to develop your critical thinking, to be curious in something, so raise more questions. That is one tip. What about the others? Reading arguments from judges, arguments from well-known lawyers, from academic professors. Is it helpful in develop your critical thinking skills in legal profession? Reading, is it a helpful tip? Read more and more. Would help to develop your critical thinking or not?
I think yes, because every author have their own opinion, and that help us a lot to develop our knowledge about that problem.
Yep. Good. Giving you knowledge, giving you the views from different angles, and then help you to expand your knowledge, expand your thinking, and gradually develop your own critical thinking, your own views on the issues, right? The first tip, raise as many questions as possible about the issues or every events happen to you, around you, every knowledge that you learn from your teacher and from media, from your friends, etc. The second tip is reading. Reading professional books, papers are very helpful. What else? That is all of my tips. Your tip, please. What should you do?
I think we should consider different points of view because when it comes to an issue, we don't believe any ideas that come up in our mind because the way we think about the issue is not actually the right way. So if we see anything in many ways, many perspectives, we will learn something new.
Right. But what helps you to view the issues from the other angles? because sometimes I feel myself to be blind. I couldn't see the other angles. So help, tips, advice.
I will try to raise many questions about this issue.
Yeah.
And try to answer this as much as possible I can.
Yeah. Put yourself in the other shoes. That is the third tip, is that because you want to view it from different angles. Now you are a victim. Put yourself in the role of the criminal. Put yourself in the role of the parents of the victims. So you can see the views from different angles. Okay? So put yourself in the other shoes. Try to be role playing. That is, you stand from your side and you view the contracts. You use your rights and obligations in this kind of purchase contracts, selling contracts. And then you jump on the other side. For example, now you are the buyer and stand in the side of the seller. What do you think, right? Especially when there's a dispute. Don't just play from your role. Just like play the other roles. You have to defend the other side. What weakness that you found about the other opposing side. And then from that seller side, you can attack the weakness of the buyer. Again, when you defend the buyers, you know, oh, here is my weakness. I have to defend. I have to prepare for this, a very bad negative attack. I have to be well prepared for that. So therefore, role playing, stand in other shoes. What else? A third tip. What else?
My tip is to, if we read the documents, we give some time to read it multiple times. Read something or approaching the subject multiple times, so that each and every time you will have, may realize some new things.
Yep, that's true. I told you a story about the students came to visit their teacher, in the village, a very remote area of Vietnam in the north. The students, after 20 years, on the teacher day, they came back to visit their very own teacher who they loved, who was very nice to them, who cared them for a year, that they feel there's no more better teacher, right? He's the best. He still be very poor because of his profession, a village teacher, a teacher at the village, not much money. But all of the students, after the class, after grade 12, they fly into different places, have different careers. Some of them very rich, some of them are quite all right, but no one are still poor like their teacher. The teachers live very purely life, devoted his heart to the students. When they came back and visited him, the same house like before they came. So he asked him to stay and he just go back to the kitchen to prepare some tea for them. So they look around the house, recall their memory. They come to his table. He saw the same question as he gave them 20 years ago when they have the final exam for his grade 12 to get into the university. That is a kind of literature teacher rather than math, you know? And the same questions, they were so shocked. Oh my God, our teachers didn't change even his question to the students for 20 years. How can it be? The world is changing so quick. All of us now become parents, father and mother. We have children, a lot of changes in our life, but nothing changed in our teacher life. The same house, the same table, the same chair, the same equipment for kitchen and everything that they explored 20 years ago. But now we're so shocked for them that the same question to the student for 20 years, how can it be? And then when the teachers came back to the table, he could recognize the shock in their students, the very astonishing experience. And then one of the students now taking the dare, you know, to be very brave to ask the questions. My dear teacher, how can you give the student the same questions after 20 years? I remember this is our final exam question, was it? The teacher said very calmly, yes, it is. The students asked, why? Why the same questions for 20 years? The world has changed, you didn't change. We expect that you are the best teacher, right? But he also calmly explained, there is the same questions, but the answers are different. The same questions, but the answers are different. How can you consider the hero in the past and the hero nowadays? The image or the characters of the heroes have been changed. How can you evaluate good people in the past and good people nowadays, especially in COVID pandemic times, who dare to devote their life to help patients? That is how the hero images changed. So he calmly explained to the student the same questions, but different answers now. So the students now understand. Similar to the story that Lynn have just said, or someone have just said, that we read a book one time at our current knowledge, we just understand that. But you give it further when you stand up like me now to read an academic paper. I have an in-depth knowledge much better than you, right? Because I have better knowledge about law than you. In my area, of course, in other area, maybe I cannot know as much as you can. But now I view the issues are different from the time when I was a student at the university. The same questions, but now you gave me, I will answer differently, right? There's some kind of justice, some of the key values, they are not changed, but there are some facts, there are circumstances that have been changed. And therefore, reading the book one time, you have a little knowledge. Reading another time, you have more knowledge. Reading more and more carefully, so that will help you to develop critical thinking. What else? So I would like someone to summarize the tips that we already discussed. The title, raising as many questions as possible about the issues or facts that you receive or you thinking of. Raise questions. Reading more, okay? Especially professional papers. Role playing. viewing the issues from different angles. And when we turn back to reading, not read it one time, read it more, many times. What else? Ngọc Yến.
So for me, I usually like when I approach a difficult problems, for example, a complex case script, I usually use the mind map to break things down, to break the problems into smaller sections or smaller pieces, so I can work with the smaller section, and I find it easier to follow the smaller sections and find the solutions, or to read the report of the panels or the appellate bodies, rather than I spending or wasting time to overwhelm about the whole problem. So I usually use the mind map to break things down into smaller sections to deal with.
Yeah, using mind map not only help you to break down the big issue into subcategories for easier understanding, but using mind maps also help you to find down the relationship, the character of relationships, the features of the relationships between things. And this is very important in legal cases as well. Whether that event or facts are related to the others. Because of the wrongful conduct of the seller, it leads me to this kind of conduct, right? If there is no fault from the seller, I will not break the contract. So therefore, you see the causal link. So you blame the seller, try to win your case. So therefore, you point out the relationship between things with the mind map. Using mind map is kind of good techniques for develop critical thinking. Thank you, Ngọc Yến. Something else? Okay, I'll let you to think further. But I emphasize here again, if all of this knowledge we discussed today didn't put into practice, you get nothing. From now on, try to practice these things, okay? Don't lock the knowledge in your mind. Use them, applying them. If not, you lose them. You will forget the knowledge, but if you apply it, you get the skills. Okay. We come to the next skills, language skills. The language used in the legal profession. So includes general and special language. And also we need general and specific skills, okay? In terms of language skills, we have general language skills and special language skills. We need general skills and specific. General include 4 skills, right? Reading, writing, speaking, listening. But within lawyers' profession, you need especially reading and writing. That is specific skills you have to develop until a very professional level. You need to know how to read a paper efficiently, spending short time, but more results. And now we turn to the questions, general and special language. What do you understand by the term special language? Bảo Ly. Bảo Ly.
Yes.
The question is on the slide. Do you have any idea about differences between general and special language? You study legal English, is that special language? Legal English. Is it a kind of special language? Ali. Ali. What's wrong? Okay, turn out to another person, Ha Trang. Ha Trang, what is special language, Ha Trang? Oh, Kim Phục, please.
I'm here.
Yeah. Kim Phục.
Yeah. In my opinion, I guess the difference between the general and special language come from their range. Like general mentioned to the symbol.
Ordinary.
Yeah.
Ordinary conversation, ordinary situation around our life, right?
Yeah, I mean, general just saying this is meant general language is like mentioned to the border, whereas the special much more focus on the core of it. Like when we are a lawyer, special language much focus on the terminologies, information that relate to case, the law, I guess.
Yeah, like for example, the word tort.
Yes, like normal people know torts like no, like normal people like when say compensation, they think like money, but not much people know that damages also mentioned to money too.
Yeah, that's right. Special language, it's in terms and terminology developed within profession. Like in medical area, there are some terms that we cannot understand. And in our legal profession, there are terminologies that are also special to ordinary people. General language is just ordinary language, right? Daily use. The special language used in some areas, much more professional, like medical area, in our profession too, right? And later on, we will discover that special language used in the law area are quite strange and quite different from ordinary. So next time, we will discuss about technical skills. And now I stop my lecture here. Probably next week we will be off, is it? Before your exam.
Yes, that's correct.
We will be off from 26th until 14th of November. So you have 3 weeks off, is it?
Yes.
3 weeks, yeah. So I see you after that, and we will follow the new schedule. See you, okay? Have a good day.
Thank you very much, Miss. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Thảo Linh too. Yeah. Goodbye.
Goodbye, teacher.
Goodbye, Miss. See you.
Yeah, see you.